Tango 1 at the top. We are at Pop-Up Vehicle. 10-4, Tango 1. You have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're ruining the Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more. All right, welcome everybody. You good to go.
All good, clearing the pipes.
You good to go, clearing the pipes at 40. That's a great thing too. So, starting the Tango 1 podcast off. Welcome, guys. I'm Tony Smith, your host. Today, we got a guest host, my wife, Dani Smith, and our guest, which we'll introduce in a second. As always, we're here to encourage you and send you on a mission to take action against your weaknesses and to do more for yourself or do more for others and be more for yourself. I got that one backwards. Anyways, welcome to our show, Mike
Ciancio.
So I want to make sure I was pronouncing it right today. He said I said the Munja Cake way the last time we talked to him, so I want to get that in there. Del Ciancio, he is the owner of DC Farms, a smaller greenhouse in the Kingsville area that is sticking to their roots and values and ignoring the all the things going on around them in that burgeoning industry. He also possesses 2 black belts. He's become, over the last 3-4 years, he's been involved in the garage gym, a very good friend. He's also a fucking handful and can own a mosh pit, as he will tell you maybe during this podcast. So welcome to the show, Del.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Anyways, so in this episode, we want to talk a little bit like you living your life and running your business by your values and through your morals, which is one of the things I respect the most about you. I want to talk to you about why you're a handful and how you own the mosh pits, and maybe get into some other things, maybe some psychedelics, maybe some farming. We'll see where it goes from there. And brought Dani on because you guys have this kind of funny relationship where you guys seem to bring out the best in comedy with each other and some good conversations. I'm looking forward to this one today. Been looking forward to it for months since Irvin in the background messed up the sound, but the last episode, Mike wanted to reshoot it anyway, so here we are. So I guess that's
I can be self-conscious at times.
Yes, that's your karma right there. To save you. So let's get rolling, man. Let's talk about right away. I just want to jump into kind of DC Farms, what it is, who you guys are, because I think that in itself is an amazing story with the farm, the generational thing.
Awesome, thanks, man. DC Farms. I'm a 3rd-generation family farmer, and me and my father started this greenhouse in 95. We grew 3 acres of tomatoes, and we've since expanded to now 6 acres. And it's been a wild ride. And our values, per se, are hard work, family, and integrity. And that's what my parents raised me. That's how my parents raised me. And I see over the years that's how they've ran our company. And it's been a pleasure to witness. And now it's up to me to continue that as my industry takes a huge boom period. And it's important that I keep that going into the evolution of DC Farms.
So that's pretty crazy. So we were saying about being 40 years old is when somebody, I don't know if you guys find this, when somebody says 1995, to me it feels like we're talking yesterday. I like when somebody says 1995, I feel like it's 5 years ago, and then I'm like, 1995, doing the math in my head, that's a long time, right? That's pretty crazy. So your father started that. Was he did he come from Kingsville? How did that
my father immigrated here from Italy in the 60s, and they originally started field farming. And like many of the greenhouses, you eventually evolve. That's evolution. And now we're into greenhouses. So that's how it progressed. So my grandparents immigrated here. They started, and my father picked up after them.
So is the field farming, is that farming for yourself, or is that farming for the
we used
community?
To grow for Heinz. Most people in Leamington, Kingsville area grew tomatoes for Heinz. Or you had orchards and peaches. and we had a fruit market at the end of the road, and that's where I grew up, like interacting with people and running the fruit stand, and it was fantastic. But eventually that shifts, and agricultural farming, there's still a lot of it happening, but it became way more challenging in this area, and just financially speaking, greenhouses became the next natural progression.
Right. So what I kind of find interesting is like being from an Italian background too, is my grandfather had a big garden as far as like a house in South Windsor would be concerned, and always grew everything. And then my mom has that same love for it, and she's passing it down to my youngest son in particular. Braun loves gardening and loves growing his own vegetables, and I think like this has become a big business, and you guys are kind of resisting that like massive growth because of you want to protect and keep it a family like industry, right? Like is that kind of
it's interesting to see the growth of an industry and how it happens. For myself, it's important that I like to do things my way, and not necessarily because I think I'm right, but I look for the truth in things, and I try to find the truth in things. And running a business, it puts you in these very interesting circumstances where you're dealing with outside situations that can really test your ethics, so to speak, or what you actually want to stand for, because oftentimes you can make decisions that financially speaking would be tremendously rewarding and maybe an easier life, so to speak. But there's something to be said for doing things myself, even if it means more challenges or there's more opportunity for growth, and in that there creates more meaning. So I find value in that, and I'm just kind of trusting that to kind of lead the way. It hasn't been easy, but it's been an adventure, and I'm really starting to have fun with it now. Up until now, it's been I've looked at it as like I'm fighting the man. I grew up listening to Rage Against the Machine, and then I grew up to realize I'm part of the machine, and there's that like you got to wrestle with that a bit. So I'm coming to terms with it now, and I'm kind of seeing where I fit, and I know where I fit, and it's just about finding the people that align with my mission, and just trusting that, and let everything else kind of, whatever happens around me, I guess that's what happens.
Is that what your dad does? Like, are you guys on the same page with that too, or do you find that you butt heads? What's that relationship like when you see the vision going one way?
Yeah.
Like, does he kind of see that the same way, or?
In the past, maybe 5 years ago, when he didn't necessarily, I had to earn his trust and respect, and until I did that, we butted heads at times, and rightfully so. Like, I have no right to dictate. He started this I have to earn the right to guide it. And I've done that now, and my parents trust me to, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a good question from Dani in terms of like manhood, I guess. And I can't speak obviously from a women's point of view, but I know like as a man growing up, there was a point where like I was about like getting rich or like wanting things and being right. Whereas now it's more so like I'm more willing to listen to the other side of things going on, and like really it's not at all about being rich. It's about like, providing and caring for the people who have supported me. And I think like that's an interesting question, because like your father at one point when you were like the young guy taking over this business, that had to be like, maybe we're going to run into this one day when my boys are there, where it's like they want to go a certain way, and it's like, listen, man, like listen, young lion, like you gotta like, it's not all about fighting, it's about being here forever and winning.
About fighting.
Winning the war, not the battle, right? Like that kind of thing. Like you guys, you must have had talks like that with your dad.
100%. I've seen it many times. My parents, God bless them, they always let me do whatever I wanted. Like they never really had much, whatever I wanted to do, they kind of let me do it. But I always knew when I disappointed them or when I asked them, I was going a certain direction, and I could tell that they were just like, okay, like, we think you shouldn't do that, but go ahead. And in business, they let me kind of, I found my way. And it was in that I needed to try it myself, because then I would learn the lesson. My parents can tell me, but until I like shit the bed myself, or I realize that it's not working, then it's like, then it hammers it home more. And now, as an adult, I see how my parents were right numerous times, and I was still, being the rebellious.
Well, it's rewarding, I'm sure, too, for your dad, like, to see you maybe try something he's not sure about either, and then maybe it's successful, or maybe he sees what joy it brings you, or what pride it brings you, and then he's just happy for you, right? Like, it is the business, is the family business, but you're also the most important part of that.
Yes.
Right? Like his child. So seeing you succeed is a, like, just a double bonus.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I get the pleasure of bringing my son to work. My wife we just live like 30 seconds down the road from my work, so she brings him by all the time, and to mix like business with my son there and my dad and like all of that, like I couldn't have that if I worked for somebody else, like that's invaluable. You can't put a price to that. So like that's another kind of bonus of this whole kind of family thing I got going on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, are you looking at your son like this is gonna be yours one day? Like, is that the kind of vision that you?
Yeah, I go there, and I also go like,
I don't want you to have to do this fight, like kind of thing. Like,
yeah, or like, don't fuck with me because now it's about my son. Like that's where now it's not about me anymore. Like I'll fight hard for me but now you have a son, so you'll do like, it forced me to step up more.
Right, you'll go that much.
I'll go that extra mile. Like if I have to stay an extra hour at work or whatever, like not to take away time from him, but like I'm way more conscious of my actions on a daily basis now. Yeah. They have more ramifications.
Yeah, I love that kind of concept too. Like it is about that. Like every time we come in here and it's like when things get shitty, that it can be as much as like a motivation for a fight, but also a motivation sometimes to like, this fight isn't worth it. Yeah. Like, what am I fighting? Who am I fighting sometimes? And like, to me, that's like, it's a real mind opener when it's like I'm fighting this person that literally has nothing to do with the growth of this business. All this is a person who doesn't, I mean, we ran into it just the other day. This is just a person who just doesn't like people. Like, like let it go and move on to the next battle so you can win the war.
What I realized in business over the last few years, I've thrown myself into multiple challenges. Like if I had an opportunity for something, or like whether it was like legal, lawyers, government, I've just thrown myself out there and just kind of see what happens. And often when I make decisions, I always think about when I'm about to die and having that, like, you see it in movies, like that montage of like your life looking back. And in that moment, like, what would I choose like right now? So I can at least say when I take I tried, or I said what I had to say. Like I didn't back down, because I mean, government, for instance, I can bitch about it forever, but unless I actually get educated and attempt to learn and have these conversations, then I have no right to bitch. And you said that to me like probably a year ago, because I was just bitching to you all the time. But fuck this, fuck that, blah, blah, blah. And it was just irrational. It was just me being like emotional and not like. And when you challenge me on that, it's either like you do something about it or you don't, and you just, but don't just sit here and bitch and not do anything. So that kind of, it was challenging at first, and I was like, damn it. But when somebody says that to you and like you want to respond, it's like usually that's when like you should probably take a step back and listen. And I did, and that's what kind of, it really helped me to like kind of push me.
Appreciate that.
I do the same thing. Like when at the end of my day.
You don't listen. No, wait, to me?
No.
To my
No.
Anyways, yeah.
I think about my day, and like I think about how much quality time I've spent with, my family, or what we did that day. And I always just reflect back on the day of thinking, if this was my last day, and I read your bio and I was thinking about that too, about how you're constantly thinking about death.
Yeah.
And but that's a good thing. That's
yeah.
It's a good thing. It can be. But I think that about that too is would I be happy with myself?
Yeah.
If this was my last day, or like how would I leave all of the most important people in my life if their last impression of me or what have you, and especially spending time with Tony or at the gym or with my kids, I think about that constantly. So I understand where you're coming from when you're saying that.
So I read a book recently, The Comfort Crisis. Michael Easter, he was on the podcast, but we didn't talk about anything about this actually. But like, he was on the podcast just a little while ago. But in his book, he talks about going to visit I'm not even going to try to figure out if I can remember the country. Goes to visit this tiny country, but part of the way their culture is they literally think about death every day. And most of us would think about that as a like terrible, and this country is like living below the poverty line. One thing that they do is they all have ownership, which is like what you have of your business and what we have in ours. They have ownership of their property. They all have property, right? It's a small piece of property, but it's theirs. Yeah. So they have very low in terms of what they make in income. They own a piece of something, and they think about death every day. And that country is I'll find it, I'll add it to the show notes, but that country is the like longest and they're regarded as the happiest country in the world. Yeah. And why? Because they have ownership of something, like you with DC Farms, us with the garage gym, our properties, the things that we own. Yeah. Like not the things, the place that we own, I guess, more so. Yeah. Right? Not the cars. Yeah. Right? It's that they think about death every day, because thinking about death every day, I think prioritizes your life. It prioritizes the people you're going to spend your time with, who you're going to invest, where you're going to invest your time with, who you're going to spend time with, how you're going to do, what you're going to do when you're not with anybody else, right? Yeah, yeah. And I think that's something that like really should be said. Like, and I like to do this drill with my tackling group. It's called the funeral. The funeral scenario basically is like, who's going to be by your bedside, who's going to carry your casket, who's going to be outside the hospital room. And really, those are the only people you should worry about pleasing, right? And like, what are the regrets? What are people going to say about you? And what advice are you going to give? If every day you kind of focus on that, man, you are going to be, I think, who cares about wealth? Like success, that's all like, self-made.
How do you judge that?
Right, how do you judge that? That should be up to you alone. Yeah. But I think happiness and peace and joy are the way to go, man. Like, yeah. So I think thinking about death all the time is like, is a good thing, as long as you're not neurotic about that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I like that. Who's going to carry your casket? Then that's like, okay, that's like your tribe right there. Like picking about who that's going to be is an interesting thought.
Well, then that. Like when you're getting called to go to all these places, all these different places, and do all these different things, like, why are you going there? Like, is that guy going to be there at the end of the day? Is that girl going to be there at the end of the day? No. Yeah. Then the answer is no. Like I think we all struggle with that answer of no all the time. So it's a good way to look at it. And I think like, you at being at home, and too, like that's been a whole uplifting thing about this COVID. And I can tell you that even since we recorded this the first time and it didn't work out because of the audio issue, like you just seem like you're in a better place.
How long ago was that? When was that?
3 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, or not that long ago.
December.
Get out of here, December. Really? I feel like longer ago than that, but anyways, regardless,
I
Where's the shift coming from?
I definitely. I realized. I mean, I've known this for years, but I've done some work over the holidays there. I did some courses and whatnot to try to figure this stuff out, and I know I'm getting in my own way. It's very obvious to me, so I can't. I realize that I can't control the outside world, and I've been trying to my whole life, because it's just kind of how do I say this? It's a lot easier to blame the world than to actually like blame yourself, or like look at yourself, and I'm just kind of seeing how it's like about me, and I fully realize that I can be fairly judgmental of people, and I don't necessarily mean to do that, but the world right now just kind of has me, and I think a lot of people, a little bit, on edge, so to speak. And I'm trying to, there's something great about that. Like, my life's an absolute adventure, and I find it super empowering. And I'm not necessarily worried about myself. I have enough like cool, good things going, a great family, but I worry about kind of the world and a lot of things happening. But I think all of that is supposed to be an experience, and I have to sit with this feeling that this is just the shift that is currently happening, and I can't fight it. And I'm saying this to you knowing that tomorrow I will probably go and fight something. So, in some capacity, I don't know what it is. And I know I might just stop, and I'm trying to I'm in there somewhere, but I'm cognizant of it, and that's half the work right there. So as long as I'm aware of it, then I can chip away at it, and that I've kind of accumulated over the past few months.
Yeah, chip away.
Away. Small steps, man. Very small steps.
That's uplifting to hear for sure.
What is so with these courses that you've taken, what's something that you think is the biggest thing that helped you, or the biggest thing that you think about maybe more often than you had before?
That's interesting.
I love when you say this all the time.
Do I?
That's interesting. You just always bring stuff up. It's like a therapy session.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like when I'm at the gym, I'm the weird, crazy guy, because I'm always going off on something.
No, you
Not at all, eh? I walk in like a bat out of hell, 5 minutes late.
Jacqueline says the other day, she goes, "Look at you. Where did you float in from?"
Float in from.
I'm glad I bring a little different element. I'm working on not being late, though. I apologize. I'm saying it on the record. I've told my wife I gotta start it's not good to race around like that. It's not good for because you're always cranked. Your adrenaline's kind of cranked.
Yes.
Yeah, it's silly. But I'm sorry, I forgot what you were saying.
Keep going.
I went off on.
No, is there something that through your courses or through your self-development that's one thing that you think could be helpful to others that you found helpful? It's
I did a Tony Robbins course, and that was quite interesting, and it's about bringing I have some, everybody does, every man, every woman has their full potential out, and I have this beast inside me. I don't mean to sound alpha male, but I have this fucking thing inside me that has to come out, and I'm just trying to manage that thing, and it's not easy sometimes. And I'm curious to see what the outcome of that will be, because it feels pure, and I'm just trusting it, and it makes
could be a good thing.
It could, yeah. It's just hard to embrace. It's it's scary to actually try to embrace that, because it's you have to be kind of vulnerable, and you gotta own it, and it's just maybe that's something you can help me with.
I think you have one of those, don't you?
A beast inside. Sometimes I feel like I'm keeping it in pretty good these days, staying in control. But I don't know, Del. So I don't know. Let's be honest. So if I was to make a prejudgment walking in about a guy like you, and people who are listening won't be able to see you, you don't sound like a guy who's 6'5", lanky guy with dreads down to your ass, wearing the beanie and always with the concert t-shirts on. You don't fit the stereotype of that peace love guy. You have so much fight in you, and this the stereotype of that would be just go with it every day, and but you are every day is you're going to a new battle, and at every day you are one person I could say wants to be 1%. You probably want to be 50% better every single day that you step on this earth, which is something I truly admire about you. Is that just a stereotype that people are seeing, not about you in particular, but maybe about I assume you hang with some friends that also are into this same kind of stuff. Are you finding you're different than everybody in your group, or you find that that's just a total misconception that normal people, for lack of a better word?
I've always kind of, I've never really had a group. Like even in high school, I was just kind of like friends with everybody, and I was just my own kind of thing. And I never wanted to be, I remember very early on making this distinction, I never wanted to be kind of summarized by like one quality, like whether it be hair or like my profession or my interest or whatever. So I find that having these like juxtaposition of like character traits makes me more well-rounded, and that's, if I was to describe myself as anything, I attempt to try to see all sides of things, which is not always easy. And sometimes you get forced into trying to be this stereotype because people want to categorize you as like one thing because it's easier for their brain to just wrap their head around. And then they can put all these beliefs on you based on that. But I don't know. I never fit that, I guess.
No, the reason I ask is because I'm kind of the same and opposite. And Dani could probably speak to this on her own terms from her own experiences. Like as a cop or as like the jock in school, or, I always felt the same. Like I don't feel like I want to be just jumbled as this guy who views this like world in like a black and white and like law and unlawful or right versus wrong. And that's always been like a struggle with me, is like within the peer group, it's like, I know you guys expect me to be certain ways, and then a lot of times too within the opposite peer group. Like if we were back in high school and this was a typical day, you and I would probably not look like, we probably wouldn't be the kids sitting at the cafeteria table together just because of how we look or what we subscribe. Like it's just a weird thing as you get older to be like totally cool with that, and I love that about you. Like if we were gonna cast you as a character and just by how you look, you wouldn't be how you sound. Like which is I think the coolest thing about people is like if you're willing to like dig a little bit deeper and get to know people. Right away you and I, like I don't even know how it happened. It was like we connected, and now I spend half the time like when you come into my class, I feel like I gotta like, actually leave your rig because I'm not coaching anybody else. So you and I end up like talking and getting deep and stuff. It's like it's a pretty funny situation, but also a very like says a lot about your character and a lot about like how much you actually care about other people and value their opinions, but also value their experiences and listen to their problems and opinions. So that's an awesome thing to have, man.
Thank you. I will say the fight, I don't think I think it's hard for a man to not to sound cheesy, but to love openly and freely if you don't have that ability to fight and say fuck you, because you have to have both, because everything's about the balance. And in order to speak freely and to love somebody, you have to be willing to offend them, and you have to be willing to say the truth even if it hurts. And there's by not having that, it prevents myself anyway from like living with my heart open. And that's important to me. And I know that sounds cheesy. It's kind of weird saying this like publicly, but
It's not weird. But why would you fight if you don't?
And this is why we brought Dani here, so it's not weird when we have these conversations looking at each other. Dani, keep going.
Sorry, I was getting self-conscious there with myself.
Remember the first time we all went out and Dani took all these pictures of me and you having the hard time? Her and Kate Mahler, and we were all like making fun of us.
Yeah, we were at the Grove.
Oh, yeah, I gotta dig those up. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it'll be the podcast cover. Anyway, keep going, baby. What are you going to say?
No, but like, why would you, what would give you the fire to fight if you didn't have that love of something or someone or
exactly
have you on the other side? So you do have to have that juxtaposition.
Yeah, that passion and intensity. I realize it rubs some people the wrong way, but it is what it is.
Yeah, man, plant your fucking flag.
Yeah, that's it. That's
what I
it,
think.
right?
Like
I gotta own it.
Is that what happens when you're owning a mosh pit?
I love that.
Is it like the love of the music?
It's everything.
But then the fighting of everyone else.
Yeah. A mosh pit is like my favorite place in the world. I haven't been in quite some time.
Why?
First of all, the music, and like that's its own thing. And I don't let my hair down too often, but when I do, I love when it's down and it's like a curtain and I'm in my own world. Mm-hmm. And when you're in a mosh, it's just like all this chaos, but I'm like alone. I have my hair and I just get to hit people and get hit, and there's just something like so fun about it. And I always wanted to do a thesis on a mosh because there's so much going on there. It's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful.
Anytime
yeah, there's so much.
No, I agree. There's so much going on, and in my opinion, as being a smaller female, I've been near mosh pits before, and I've been like, okay, I'm not going near that because there are some guys in there that really are getting after it. But they're getting after it, and you can tell that they're getting after it for themselves, right? In the space that opens up to them, right? Yeah,
and it allows you that out that this world just puts all this shit on you. It's like and you can let it out, and everybody's mutually letting it out at the same time. And it's like it's incredible.
Yes, man. And I just had my first run-in with like the woke community this past week. And the accusations that came, and I think like what you just said sums it up. Like, yes, listen, I am not lying. I am not like not trying to cover up that men are the problem in this world. Like, as much as I think we can be the solution, not the only solution, but men are taking their lives. Men are also taking lives, like assaults, rapes, like all these things are from men, like for the most part. Like, I'm saying all, but like in generality, I think we're talking like over 98%, like when it comes to assaults and violence. And the reason being is I feel like we're caging it in. Like the mosh pit, from my little experience, is very much like blast camp or like jiu-jitsu down there, where we are getting out some things that are very primal and emotions that need to come out in a controlled setting where we're all volunteer to this, right? Like, yes, things can get out of hand in a mosh pit, and they can get out of hand in the jiu-jitsu, you know, and we talked about it just the other day, and we'll get into it a little bit, but like that stuff needs to come out. So like owning it, feeling it, and letting it go is what I think can solve bigger, more violent, more, you know, problems that are unlawful, right?
Exactly.
And you know, and not even unlawful to unethical, right? Like bad bosses and human resources type stuff. So
people repress all those feelings, and it comes out in other ways. Maybe it's like, you know, some kind of political shit at work, or you're being naive about something. It comes out somehow, some way. It comes out. So if you're allowed that space, your blast camp, exactly like you were saying, then that's what men need. And I know some people look at it like, you know, testosterone and all this. Like, sure, but that's the same testosterone that, like, you know, has contributed a lot of good to this society and protects people. So, like, that whole woke mob kind of gets on my nerves too, man.
Yeah, and that, I mean, trying to explain that to people who aren't willing to even engage in a conversation, just want you to listen to their side. That's been the old me. The 35-year-old me would still be going back and forth with this person. Yeah. Where the new me, you know, listen to the criticism, actually some of it is actually going to be part of a debrief for some other stuff where I think we can improve. But I responded with a kind email explaining myself, and what came back was definitely not anything that was listened to, and then that's where the conversation ends, because that's now it's be wasting my time. So I'm going to there's some takeaways from it. Some things that we can do to improve, that I can do to improve blast and maybe the way I market it. But it's not to appease this person. It's to actually, I'm clearly not getting my message out clear enough.
Well, it's perception, regardless. Like, at the end of the day, someone perceives something that you are doing or saying or what have you, and you also, to do your work's justice, is to take, like Mike said, to listen to all sides. And you might take none of it, some of it, all of it, but at least taking into consideration certain points, whether you agree with, you know, barely any of it, but taking away something that you think is actually, that's a pretty good point, I'm going to work on that, is just showing maturity. And it's also showing that you are trusting yourself, like doing a better job at understanding yourself too, I think.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day that when we present this to our team, what seemed to come from a completely irrational source, for me to say like, hey, there is something from this that we can learn. It opens it up to the team. And like, what's that? The 4 agreements? Something in that person's experiences in life led to what came out against me. It's not my, like, to own that myself. Like, own what I can out of that, but at the end of the day, like, what's the 4 agreements? Don't take it personal is one of them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I think that is what I'm trying to avoid these days, is not to take it personal, and I think that's what we all need to kind of go with.
They say like everybody's kind of a mirror for your own insecurities.
Yeah.
So something in that girl triggered something, because I have that with, like, when you triggered me with the thing about a year ago. I'm like, oh, fucking Tony. And then I look and I'm like, okay. But I had a similar situation with, I did a media thing. I said one line on a news clip, one line. And this university professor from McMaster wrote me back and accusing me of all this stuff. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? And at first I wrote an email, like, kind of
Scathing,
calling him out and kind of
scathing email, yeah.
and then
I'm
I was
good
like,
at
no,
those.
I can't do that. And then I deleted it, and I legitimately tried to kind of understand this. And then he wrote back again, and then I gave a rebuttal, and then it went nowhere. But I had another incident with it's something about university professors that they just think that they can say whatever they want.
Here I go. I'm gonna get blasted
And-
tomorrow. Thanks, Bill.
Bless all of them. Like, I'm university educated, like, but like, I don't know. There's some weird trend that seems to be happening. And another one kind of went off saying some ignorant comment. So I challenged him on it, and he invited me on his podcast. But we'll see. We'll see if I get a call back. But I would love to what a challenge that would be to
Like have a debate?
have a debate with I'm like, okay, game on. Let's do this.
Why not?
But I think maybe it's your words that I'm looking into too much. Is like, and I think that's part of the discussion you and I had back, whatever that was, a year ago, or even throughout this whole thing, is like, instead of looking at it as a challenge, like as a fight,
Yeah.
look at it as a challenge to, get your opinion, to educate somebody more on your opinion, and to listen to the other side's opinion and get educated more on their opinion. Like, that's the challenge. Instead of viewing it as a challenge, instead of viewing it as a fight, view it as a positive challenge, or as a opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
that's kind of I think what we miss a lot, is like, this isn't a fight. This doesn't have to be a fight. This is an opportunity.
That's
Right? And that's what that 4 Agreements book, I wasn't actually a big fan of this book that
I
everybody
think we
talks
should all
about.
take a shot every time we say the word fight.
Nah, cheers to that. But with that book was like that the world or God or whatever you believe in will present you with whatever you need to grow.
Bingo. Yeah.
Right? And that's what I think is happening to you. Why did all these people reach out to you? Because that's where your area of weakness is, where you can improve.
You're
Like,
right.
that's how I've kind of started to look at things. And
Yeah.
it's made me a lot calmer. I can tell you that. Fight. Let's do a cheers.
Yeah. I was gonna say that. Let's do.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm going to take this break to read in an ad. Every podcast, Tango One Podcast, is sponsored by Murray Insurance. Ian and Kara are OGs, the workout next to Mike every single day. They start at 6. Mike starts at 6:05. And they are Ontario's #1 ranked Desjardins insurance agency by their clients, and they're owned by, like I said, our Kingsville OGs, Ian and Kara Murray. They pride themselves on many of the high standards the garage gyms come to expect. They are experts in their industry, but probably my favorite thing about them is that they focus on community and employing local team members, in which they have over 100 years of experience in their office. They're a one-stop shop for everything you need to protect you and your family and your assets with the best policy industries. Give them a shout today, or send them a text at 519-733-2331, or you can reach them at Team Murray Insurance on Instagram. Cool, let's move on. So, man, one of the things I want to talk about, I know this is one of Danny's favorite topics, and a little bit like your psychedelic journey. I know this was real popular on a lot of podcasts for a long time, and then it kind of like died off a little bit. And for me in my life, I mean, I think the last time we met, I was kind of microdosing with shrooms, or whatever the fancy name is for shrooms. And I was feeling some real good results, and then at a certain point I decided, like, hey, like, how I'm feeling on these things is how I want to feel without the help. Yeah, and I've kind of I've gone the other way. I actually, like, this is the first time I'm really drinking on this podcast. I don't really do any of that stuff anymore for that reason, and I kind of would love to know, like, your experiences are wild. I know we've talked about it a bit. I can't wait to hear Dani chime in on some of this stuff and her experiences. But like, I'd love to educate some people just a little bit more on the why and the where and what your kind of thing is on this, what your take is on this, and this wild adventure you might have taken.
Sure. I've dabbled in a few areas there. Life kind of, set me, again, just trusting that it's supposed to happen. I invited myself on I met these people at a barbecue, and they were going to Peru. And
like what? You're just like at a baby shower?
I was at a
You've
barbecue.
never met before?
I met one guy, and he introduced me to these
Okay.
two others.
Okay.
And they said, we're going to Peru. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come. So I just joined them on this journey.
I wish we had the editing crew to like put together like Mike Dell 15 years ago.
I'll send you a photo.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
I'll
how
send you
they
a
do on the
photo.
documentaries. hey, I'm Mike. I'd like to go. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
And so it seemed like the natural progression, because I was thinking about it. I forget where I first learned about it. But I was thinking about it for like a few years. I'm like, how is this actually going to happen? And then I met some people. I'm like, well, thanks, guys, because that's my sign. So here we go. And so we went to just a hut in the middle of the Amazon jungle. There's just this area carved out with little huts. And when I met the shaman there, because I didn't know who he was at first. There's a bunch of people in this hut. And then when he walked in, I locked eyes with him, and I immediately, I felt like he's like saw my soul. I say this all the time, but you guys are cops, you can read everything about someone through their eyes, And I'm like, okay, so whatever this guy tells me to do, I'm going to do it. And
Please try again.
and where's I going with that?
I don't know.
So he saw your soul.
Yeah, saw my soul.
Sorry, Syrian Sherpa, whatever, got mixed up. Shaman, sorry. I've been reading that book about the climbing the mountains. I keep saying
Yeah.
Sherpa instead of shaman.
We did climb Machu Picchu after that with Sherpas.
So where is this?
This is in Peru.
What part of this is Peru? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, long story short, I went to go do ayahuasca for the first time in this hut, and I did it the first 2 nights, and I didn't have anything happen,
Okay.
and everybody around me was in another world.
Is this like a smokable thing? Is this an
Oh, it's a
edible
tea.
thing? Is it
It's a tea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
what's
the-
it made out of? Do you know?
Native plants and like bark and just all natural resources from the jungle.
Okay.
And they brew it up, and the shaman gives you a little cup, and he judges kind of based on how much to give you.
Right.
And
He looks
so,
at you and he's like, hands in your
and there's just, you got a mat, a roll of toilet paper, and a bucket, and you go and do it. This is at 10 o'clock at night, and the surroundings, like the jungles, all the animals, it's incredible.
Do they explain to you what the bucket and the toilet paper is for?
Yeah, they say you might have bodily functions of some sort,
Okay.
and the rest is kind of.
Are you wearing clothes?
You're wearing clothes.
Okay.
You can do
Okay.
it. You can go however you want.
Okay. Just trying to paint a picture.
Yeah, it's in this big Maloca. It's called
Okay.
Now picture Mike naked.
like a big gazebo.
It's okay, so am I.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Same to you,
You're
audience.
welcome.
Yeah, so I take it, and nothing happens, and everybody else is starting to do their thing, and I'm just lying there, and then he asks for another cup, so I go do another cup, and then I sit down, and I'm just lying, and I'm trying to force. I'm like, what do I do?
Were you getting mad at this?
I was
point?
getting mad.
Yeah.
Like I came all the way here. Like
Yeah.
what? And I'm like, what do I do? Like, do I think of something? Do I what am I supposed to do? I just remember thinking that. And so I laid there for the last 5 hours, and I'm just kind of nauseous and lying there, kind of pissed off, and for 2 nights in a row. And the first night, everybody came out of the experience just like, oh my God, like their mind was blown. And I'm just like, oh shit.
Me too.
Yeah. And I went home and I wrote in my journal. My journal from that trip is fantastic. I can't wait for my son to read it one day. And then the next night it happened, and some of my friends, it didn't go so well. Well, when I say it didn't go so well, like sometimes it gives you what it gives you.
Right.
But usually, I mean, even if you take mushrooms or people say like they had a bad trip, all that is it's showing you something that you are uncomfortable with in yourself. So
Gives you what you
it gives you what you need. So look at why you're tripping out and be like, shit, I should probably fix that. So it's like, but it hurts and it sucks. Like nobody wants to go through that. You know, when you're a fight and you might say something, shit, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. That's what ayahuasca does. So yeah, it didn't work the second night, and the shaman came to me. He whispered to me, he's like, I'll see you in the morning. I'm like, okay. So he comes in the morning. It's 7 o'clock. I'm sitting at the end of my bed, and he gives me a glass just like this, full of it's black, and he's like, drink this. I'm like, what is? He's like, it's tobacco. I'm like, oh God, okay. and so I drink it, and I could barely put it down. I like kind of threw it down, and I broke out into like cold, like immediately, like cold, and I was just shaking, like,
Okay.
like, and I was just, and he puts his hands on me, and he's just like, you're gonna be okay. He's like, breathe deep, like take a shower if it gets scary, drink water. He's like, and I'll be back in like 2-3 hours. I was just like, oh shit. Okay. So now I'm and I put trust in him. So I'm like, okay, Mike, like just ride this out, like wherever it takes you. And so I was like that for like 2 hours, just sitting on the end of my bed, like shaking like this, and my hands were clenched like this, like fight. I always talk about fighting. And before I left for that trip, I remember I got in a slight disagreement with my father, and at the time I was getting frustrated, and I just closed my fist. And my dad's like, "Why are you making?" He's like, "Why are you frustrated?" I'm like, "I'm not." He's like, your fists are clenched." I'm like, "Oh shit, very intuitive, Dad. Well done." And so when I was back, I'm on the end of the bed, and my fists are clenched, and I just went back to that moment, and then I opened it took everything I had. I couldn't even open it. I had to get my other hand, and I had to pry my hand open. And this surge of energy just like all through my body and just like shot out my hand. And it was amazing. It was unbelievably amazing. All in like 1 second. And I felt like it was just like this thing like awoken inside me. And that was in the morning. And then that night I went and did ayahuasca again, and it was like blast off. Because he told me, I'm like, what was that all about? And he said, you have a blockage between your head and your heart.
Detox.
Yeah. Oh, when you go there, it's all about like they put you on a certain diet. Like it's great. It's very much your food intake is directly related to how the experiences that you have.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went and did ayahuasca, and it was like, it was incredible. It was so incredible. And I remember like being in this situation. I'm like, okay, so like again, what do I do? And then it's just like, I'm like, I want to be happy. I just kind of said it like a question. Like maybe we can be happy. Let's try that out. And all these images of like, it took me back to like a farmhouse that my grandparents grew up in, and it showed me like a father walking with his kid on his shoulders in a baseball game. I can't wait to do that with my son. There's something about that, just to go to a baseball game with my son. Yeah. And like dolphins jumping and like flower fields and all these beautiful things that happen all the time around us, but we don't see them because we're still in our own thing, you know?
Right.
But like happiness is always there. This is what it was teaching me. And it was just incredible. And then from there, I was just like, okay, like, what do you got for me now? And I just like kind of dictated to what I wanted. And then it went to like all these like geometric shapes and just like coming at me like one, and I was just like, oh my God, wow, like this is incredible. I felt like, I don't know, it felt great, and it felt so liberating. And at one point, the shaman comes up to me, and he gives me like this leaf bath, and just like tapping me, and he's like, everything's okay, and he just whispers it in my ear. And I just like I got chills right now just thinking about it. And I have a tattoo on my chest of that. So
A man.
yeah. I always know, like, and you said it best, like, you can get to those moments with psychic and these other things, but you can also get to them without them. But at least like I like ayahuasca, this path, because it shows you that it's attainable, but
Yes.
you can't rely on that, because then you're just like chasing the dragon all the time.
Yeah, that was my like awakening from my tiny experience, was that you know, not tiny, I guess it was close to a year, and going through my treatment too, like treatment for like my PTSD stuff, and that it was like that kind of PTSD stuff led into this with the microdosing, and then led into this, like, you know, like, man, I can feel this happy. And like I remember walking out into the yard one morning and like watching a I'm watching a Netflix show about animals.
Oh yeah.
Colors of the animals with my kids in the morning, and it was like, you know, Danny was there, so anybody listening, like, it wasn't like I was just there babysitting. And I was just like, man, this is like the best moment of my life. And what, like, if that was to happen tomorrow morning, and maybe the St. Paddy's Day hangover might make it different, but like if that was to happen tomorrow morning, why is it not still the best moment of my life? And like that's what I want to connect the dots between. Yeah, it's like, okay, that I experienced with this stupid, like, literally, I don't know, what is that microdose, like 0.2, like it was like 0.25, like, you know, it was like
quarter of a gram
of
maybe.
This little like mushroom.
Yeah.
Why can't I experience that with myself? And what am I missing in my life? What am I missing in myself that won't let me get there? And that's the gap I want to close.
Exactly. Like that's with I mean, you said it was very popular. Like you hear Tim Ferriss, all these people.
Right. And that seems to go in these like these things we talk about.
And I'm much like when you see like cannabis legalization, it's a mess. It's a shit show. And I think psilocybin's next. And like psychedelics, there's research being done. I just hope that getting corporate people in there doesn't like totally dilute what it's supposed to do.
I mean, the legalization of weed, let's be honest, like, it hasn't made the world a better place.
No, it hasn't. It's been an interesting impact.
Like most people, like when I go there, it's not to, I don't know. It's not like I'm trying to like solve my demons. I'm just trying to find an alternative to booze. Like, you know, like I think that's
it opened the doors for psychedelics, hopefully, and it can help. And I believe it can really help in
Me too.
mental illness. But there are people that are. I did it again one time. In Toronto, I found this underground community of
totally different settings.
Totally different settings. This underground community of like, you know, interesting people, and I did it there, and it was different, and I realized that in this community, there's people that can use this new age stuff as like. I say it. I don't know. It's not always positive. It's not always as positive as people kind of make it out to be. And I think I said this before, but what psychedelics showed me is like the person I am and the person I think I am are like two different people, and overcoming that is a challenge. And sometimes if you see that. And you don't deal with it, then you're constantly chasing like the next ayahuasca trip, the next this, the next that. And,
that's a great way of putting it. And like,
I went down that road. I'm talking from experience.
With
like,
that government stuff too, they're not sending a shaman home with you. You know, like it's become an industry. Like I think like maybe it is best to keep it. I don't know, man.
I don't know either. Yeah, but it's definitely interesting.
What do you think? What do you want to know?
On the legalization?
Anything. Like Del's story.
Let's go to Peru. Let's the three of us go to Peru.
Yes. So I've booked us a trip.
Can Carly babysit?
Yeah.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you, my beautiful
She's like
wife.
shooting us the finger tomorrow, listening to this.
No, Carly's coming.
Oh yeah, she is.
Yeah. No, I do think that that's amazing that you had that opportunity, and I'm very happy that you had the experience and were able to. Not just do it because like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get fucked up, you know. It was more of like an experience of like, what can this show me, and how can I do something about that? Yeah. And obviously you could see from I would imagine that going through the frustration of the first 2 nights was like clearly this man could tell that, you know, this is something you need to kind of deal with. Yeah. And this is something that you need to understand that it's not just a thing that is going to go away easily, right?
Exactly.
You had to feel the feelings.
Yeah.
In order to learn from it, because if you didn't, you probably wouldn't have, and it would just been like, ooh, this is delightful.
Yeah.
And carry on, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think that for sure with the experience that you went through and me just being your partner in that, I do think that if people are looking for a solution and wanting to try something to then open their mind and better themselves, I think that that's a great thing, and that it should be a consideration for sure.
Yeah, I think I would love to see where it's the first, like, I don't want to get out of my lane, but like I feel like choosing something that's from the earth rather than something that's made through chemicals and in a lab, that is a better first step for me, for my personal. And I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not telling you to chug a fucking glass of tobacco by any means. You know, I'm just saying that, like, I think, like, you know, and it even comes right down to fuel. And you said they start that whole process with what you're eating.
You go on a diet before you even go, like 2 weeks prior.
So think about, like, even before you try anything like that, like, what are you eating? What are you consuming in the outside world? Well, like, social media, news, TV shows. Like, if you start, like, that's starting way more basic than dabbling in, let's call them drugs. Like, and then pharmaceutical drugs. Like maybe that should be the stages. It's like, I mean, not maybe, I think it really should be. Like, we're put here for a reason. All these resources were put here for a reason. Start with that. What are you consuming? Food-wise. Relationship-wise. If you're
in a situation where you are experiencing maybe you're tired all the time, or you feel frustrated, or you have these situations where you're not happy, let's just say that, where you're not happy, you don't feel good, then starting with those things is, we know from the gym, an amazing reaction from a lot of people who just start to cut out things that they shouldn't be ingesting, and cutting out screen time, and making more time for themselves to be alone, and to be with their thoughts. Like, all of those things can make you a very happy person and feel really good too. And then if you want to do the Peru trip, that's just
that's a cherry on top.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, replacing good habits with bad habits.
I think that's how I ended up at your gym, to be honest with you.
We're vibing. Because I was just about to ask you that.
Okay. Interesting. Because I was trying, I'm like, I can't just chase this thing all the time, but I can do it in my everyday. And just forcing yourself to wake up early and go work out it's like, it puts you like that much closer to getting into that sweet spot, and like there's times where you can, you find that zone when you're working out, and if the right tune's on, like, that's even better. So like that can be just as profound of an experience in its own way if you just accumulate that with like other decisions, and like that, like you were saying, just incorporating it into your everyday is it's doable if you just it's about discipline.
So this is a totally off topic, but I know you love martial arts and fighting. That was maybe our first connection. Was I was training Randa, and you want to talk about that stuff, and I knew little about it. I still know little about it in comparison, but jiu-jitsu. So that whole game, that whole scheme, the whole like MMA in general. I'm not just doing jiu-jitsu. I'm just more catch wrestling. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of
So
I know catch
that's
wrestling.
what their basis is here, is catch wrestling.
Oh, sick!
Right,
that's old school.
Right,
yeah,
which is
it's cool,
and it's so primal and so fun. Danny though has been encouraging me to eat a gummy before I go.
Yeah, 100%.
I knew you were going to say
100%.
This is not staged at all. But I feel like, how? I'm not going to be able to, have my dexterity, is my athleticism going to be gone?
Let it go. Just
I would go spar.
around.
I would go spar often.
I thought you said I'm going to go star.
No.
Come get me, guys.
I would spar
I'm
often.
here for you to manhandle.
And the first little bit, I'd be getting hit. I'm like, Mike, like, you're fighting. Come on. It's like, this guy's talking to me. For the first 10 seconds, I'm like, okay. And then, it's somebody. I've always been talking. There's always been this guy ever since I was like
back, Mike.
this old. I'm always talking to this guy over here. But then when you find that, and then you're just kind of flowing. That don't happen often. I'm not that good, but it's a great feeling though. Just when you have a little bit of the fog removed, and then you throw in like some of these. It's beauty.
So the flow state,
Yeah.
right? That's what everybody's talking about. So
It's moving meditation, because when you're getting hit, you don't have time to think.
So this is what worries me. So I was writing
Thank you.
my book thing that I was doing, and it's pretty much done, but I whatever. Anyways, I'm writing my book, and then when I was doing the microdosing, I was like, man, I can flow on this
Right?
book, right? But then one day I looked down and my hands were miniature, and I couldn't hit the keys anymore.
Back off.
And so I'm
Dial
worried.
it back.
So I'm worried I'm gonna get on the fucking thing, and I'm not gonna be able to hit anybody's head, or my head's gonna be really big, and
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah,
hitting me. That's
And that might happen. I've had times where I'm in your gym, I'm like, son of a bitch.
Oh, we know it. When you leave out of your bench press, he's like, Mike, that was only 3 reps. You're supposed to do 5. You're like, yeah, man. And you go check what song's playing on the Spotify list.
No, I was in the zone. I wanted to put this on my playlist.
Outstanding.
All I'm saying is that if you do it and you dial it into the right dose, like you could be an MMA master.
They have jiu-jitsu tournaments that are all about, like, I forget what, I think it's Nate Diaz, the Diaz brothers, you know the Diaz
Oh yeah.
They have their own like tournament where you have to like smoke a joint before, like it's mandatory that you
Right.
smoke or something, and it's a whole tournament. Much of the jiu-jitsu culture is built around weed.
Really?
But, yeah, you get like your flow, like it attracts. I mean, I don't know the students at your gym, but I mean, imagine maybe some of them might lean towards
I
that.
don't think so yet. Maybe that's where we're going. Maybe I'm gonna be the trendsetter. The trends. Look how good that guy is. He's 40 something.
It brings in such a different array of people. It's great. I love it.
Oh man.
I'm not good. Like, don't hype me up like I'm that good. I just
are
like
your
doing
black
it.
belts?
Oh, I fought you. I know.
What I don't know this.
Huh?
Black belt is in smothering your face with these dreads. I can tell you that from the one time that we rolled together. I'm like, get those out of my mouth.
Black belt in tobacco
And-
drinking, dread smothering.
Oh, it's Kempo and Kyokushin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about. what's the difference between those
Kempo is the same style of karate that Elvis did, and I have Elvis on my shirt.
Yeah, I saw
How badass
that.
is this shirt, by the
two?
way?
I like that.
That
These
shit.
are like two of my favorite people, and they're randomly on a shirt together.
Yeah.
Is that like a real picture?
Yeah. It's legit.
I like it. Man.
You know his little hip thing that he does?
Yeah.
That's a karate move that he did on stage.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a lot of like cool looking stuff that if you pulled off you would look like amazing, but it's not really as practical in the street because it's just chaos and what you guys know. When you fight someone, you're not going to stop, let me hit you here and do this.
Right.
But it helps give you like enough structure and confidence. And the other one, I have a black belt in pressure point. This is funny. Yeah, pressure points. So I know my pressure points well. And no, I'm not going to share that story. So
Can you do one on Tony?
Just,
Can you do a pressure point on Tony?
I could. When I was doing my black belt, I had to grade and I had to do a knockout of somebody, and I was so like in the moment, and I went to do the knockout and I knocked the kid's tooth out. And I gave him a concussion. I was like, "Oh shit!" And he was volunteering to like help me, but I was so like jacked, you know.
But
it worked. I got him out.
Yeah, like what?
I got a black belt. It worked.
What are you
It worked.
supposed to
Paid
do?
for his dental. And,
It's
through the company.
do you guys know pressure points from police? You guys use
Yeah,
them.
they taught us a bunch.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And then I started another karate because I didn't know if what I learned was actually tangible. I don't know. So I went to go check out other gyms, and I kickboxed in Thailand for a couple months. That was fantastic. That was cool. I went to like a fight camp in Thailand and learned from like the actual legit, and that was fantastic. And so I just like to mix it up because when you get too far into something, it gets. Once I get too far in, I need to be like, no, I need my space. I got to go learn something else. I have a hard time like. I always need to learn something new. And same with martial arts. And I boxed for a little bit. So if you mix it all up, then you're kind of good at, at least decent at everything, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember going to Windsor to check out some gyms, and I saw them sparring, and I was like, oh, shit. these guys could kick my ass and I'm a black belt. And I was just like, oh, that's not good. So then I signed up again, and he asked me at the time, he's like, do you want to start with your black belt, or do you want to go back to white belt? And I was like, I'll go back to white belt. And I think that immediately won over all the guys in the gym, which was cool,
sure.
because it was it was a lot of fun. I haven't done it in a while, and I'd love to go back. I gotta get back into that, because it's great. I really like it.
CFA here 3 days
Yeah,
a week, man.
yeah. I'd like to come out.
It's been fun. I underestimated how, like, the kickboxing, I'm blown away by, one, how devastating somebody can be.
Yeah.
If they know how to kick.
Yeah.
Like, watching Carm kick. Well, you were like, those limbs, and like when you can move them, it's like it's a weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and also the fucking, my God, it hurts to kick.
Wait, yeah.
Like, to now watch these guys in the UFC, and
Right?
I'm watching them like kick as hard as they can to some. No wonder Anderson Silva's like leg broke in that fight. Like,
Yeah.
that, it kills. And I'm like kicking bags still. Like, you know, like we're
Yeah.
kicking thighs, but we're in pads. Like, it's mind blowing.
When you get caught on that right spot, I fractured my shin.
oh,
And tore my calf. Every time I entered a tournament, I hurt
not
myself.
talking me into that.
But it's once you then you have it. Once you get that kick, then you always have it, just in case. Just in case. If you have that kick in your back pocket, because most guys, if you get in a fight, they're not expecting a kick.
Right.
They're expecting like one of these.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah,
if
for
you're
sure.
on a gummy, you probably wouldn't hurt so bad.
That's what she keeps saying too. I'm like, yeah, the next day I will be still dying. During it, I won't be hurting as bad. But you know what, guys? I think that's a great spot to end it. This has been a fantastic podcast, and I think, like, talking to you, man, just hearing, like, your views on the world and how you want to improve yourself and why you want to improve yourself more so just makes me respect you even more. And I'm glad we redid this one. When we talk about karma and, like, the world finding its way, I think that was even a reason why the audio didn't work, is because this second one is gold. And listen to you talk, man. I respect you. It's not even about, nothing is about, like, money, stature. It's just all about good people and surrounding yourself with them, and you're one of those people in my corner. So I just thank you
Awesome,
for that.
man. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, so cheers to fatherhood and being in your 40s
That's right.
and motherhood.
Now's the time to do more and be more.